everybody, welcome back. Okay, we are now going to continue on with our project, and we have finished the pages for the large book, and we need to make the binding, and that's what I have here on my scoreboard. So for the binding, you need a piece 6 3/8 by 9 1/4. Put it in your scoreboard with the 9 1/4 across the top, and you're going to score at 2 1/2, 3, 3 1/2, 3 7/8, 4 3/8, 4 7/8, 5 1/4. That's there. 5 3/4, 6 1/4, 6 5/8, 7 1/8, and 7 5/8. Okay, so and I've already done that. Put my scoreboard aside and pull out the large scoreboard for that one. All right, now before we fold, we're going to go ahead. I'm going to flip it over and put tape. Actually, you know what? Let me get my 3/8. All right, so what you've got here are 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/8, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/8, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/8, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. So you want to put your tape in that first 1/2 inch. I'm having a hard time seeing. I think I've got that. Skip the next 1/2 inch, skip the 3/8, and put tape in the next one. I'm trying to turn this to an angle where I can see it better. Oh, that's much better for me. Okay. Okay, skip the next 1/2 inch, skip the 3/8, and put a piece of tape in the next 1/2 inch. And again, we're going to skip 1/2 inch, skip 3/8, and put a piece of tape in the next 1/2 inch. Okay. And I'm just going to burnish that tape a little bit. We'll have another chance later. Okay, so now what you need to do is fold each of the pairs. I'm going to turn it over. You want to fold each pair of 1/2 inch into a peak with a flat space in between. All right, so I'm going to fold in between the two 1/2 inch pieces. Burnish it well. And I'm going to fold this piece back. We can actually take the tape off if we want at this point on that first one and fold it together. Okay, so now I'm going to fold that back this way. So now we have a little peak. You see that? And we want to repeat that for the next one. So we're skipping, we're going to leave this flat and fold the next pair of 1/2 inch sections together. Fold the back of the tape off. Pinch those together. Burnish. Okay, so now we have 2 peaks. Tricky. It's not hard to do, it's just there's a lot going on. Okay, so there we go. easier to lay it flat. Okay, so that's the third one. Okay, so we've got 3 peaks, and then we're going to have one last peak here. So we have flat back, 4 peaks. Now you want to burnish everything really, really well. Okay. And in both directions. So just play with these back and forth. We want these to move freely so that our pages turn freely. Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to hold it up. I hope this is focusing, but you can see it's longer on one side than it is on the other, and that's what we want. Now, I'm going to switch from my 3/8 inch tape to my 1/4 inch tape. And I'm going to tape both sides of these fins with the tape up near, closer to the fold than the spine, because we're going to put our pages in and we're not going to put them all the way down to the bottom because we want to make sure they turn freely. There's our last one. And let's go ahead and give that a good burnish. And get it in this direction. Each of these. I call these fins. I don't know what their official nomenclature is. Our book, and the way this is going to work is this right and the wider piece of the binding goes to the left, the narrower to the right. You want the rightmost fin to be 3/8 in, 3/8 of an inch in from the right. All right, and you can mark it. You should mark it probably. So let's go ahead and clean up a few of these things here that we have in the way. And you can take your pencil, and now you don't want it to be visible too much when you're done, but there's a lot going on. It probably won't be, especially on a dark paper like this. So I'm just going to make a little mark there, turn it around, and make a little mark here. just as a bit of a guide for me. I mean, you don't have to be 100%. I don't need to go quite that far. You don't need to be, you know, crazy about it, but you'd like to be fairly close. All right, now, what we need to do is put adhesive on the whole back of this piece. And if I'm doing a smaller spine, sometimes I'll try to avoid putting adhesive in here. And I'm trying to think if there's any way for me to do that, and it would be difficult. You could, but it would be kind of a pain, and we're trying to make this an easy project. So let us go ahead and lay this as flat as we can. And again, if you've got the full sheets of score tape, this would be an awesome spot to use them. I can fix that. All right, now what I'll do is I'll take this off and put another narrow piece there, but before I do that, I just want to get what I'm gonna do to make this easier on myself is I'm gonna check it against that 3/8 mark that I made. Put it there. Make sure it's on the same mark there. Oops. That's pretty good. And make a pencil mark here. See that way it's easier to line up against this than it will be against these little marks. And this seems quite long to me, so before I keep going, I'm going to do a dry fit to make sure these fit, because if they don't, I have time to trim them down. And yeah, I think it is too long. I don't know, I must have measured it wrong. Hang on. Okay. Yeah, these pages are only 6 1/4, so why I thought you need just 6 3/8 binding is beyond me. So go ahead and trim that to 6. Make it, if you haven't already made it, cut it 6, not 6 3/8. If you're working along with me, I'm sorry, cut it 6. And I'm just gonna go put this on my trimmer and cut it down to 6. Okay, that looks better. And now I can actually see a little better, so I'm going to redo those marks, make sure they're correct. Okay. All right. That looks good. Okay. So cut your binding 6 by 9 1/4, not 6 3/8. Sorry about that. I'll make sure it's correct on the cutting guide. All right. And let's go ahead and put this in. And again, I'm going to, because I have a gap here, I'm going to take this piece off. And remember, we need to add magnets. That's why I've got my little note there. Okay. And just burnish that. Get myself to Harbor Freight and get one of those pointy tools. It looks like a little hook. I mentioned it in the last video that Tamara from Country Craft Creations in her videos has this little pointed tool that she uses to help lift up that tape, the back of the tape, I should say. Okay, now be very careful here. You want to make sure that you are putting the wide piece to your left. Although honestly, if you did it backwards at this point, you could just turn the book over. But and so we want it centered top to bottom, and we want it against those lines that we drew. Oops. And we're just gonna sort of roll it down, just like that. Oh my goodness. It's straight, but that doesn't look very straight below it. Oh, I've got a little bit of tape sticking out. That's all right, that'll be covered by mats. Okay. And again, once you get it down, you want to burnish it, of course. It gets stiffer and harder to turn the little tabs. So you want to start working them again, breaking down the fibers, getting them to turn easily. Okay. All right, here we go. All right. This I had a little bit of tape sticking out the top. I don't know if you can see it. And I can probably just rub it off, but I know I'm going to put a mat that goes further up than that, so I don't have to fuss about it too much. Okay, so then we're going to go ahead and work this gap again. Again, being super careful, you do not want to break through that paper. You don't want to puncture your paper, so just very carefully. There we go. Now you can see we have quite a gap here, and that's to accommodate the little book that's going to be sitting here. All right. Okay. There we go. And just playing with it a little bit. All right, there we go, ready for our pages. And here they are. Okay, over. Wait a second, I'm just gonna clean up a little bit of this stuff. You can't see it, but it's driving me crazy all around my workspace here. This next step, we're gonna need a little pointy tool. I'm gonna put the pages in, and I like to start from the back. All right, so this is gonna be the back page. And I'm gonna ask for your forgiveness in advance. I might have to lift this up and bring it closer to myself. All right, so you're going to slide this over the tab. I've only took the tape off the back of the tape off one side. You can use wet glue for this if you prefer. All right. Slide it down, and you want to stop about 1/16 of an inch before the bottom. And usually this first one is the one I get on crooked. I'm just laying it down to make sure it looks pretty straight. There we go, that looks good. And then you're just gonna tip it over, pull out the tape, and then lift it up and press it down. Now, it looks a little high, actually. It looks very high, oh my goodness. That's what I get for trying to do that blind. Hang on. Pull out the undo again. It's always this first one that gives me a hard time. it's always the first one. Like I said, usually after that, I get them on pretty easily. The first one always gives me a hard time. Okay. All right, let's try that again. And like I said, I think I may just pull it closer to me so I can see it better. Undo is still wet, so that one in there. Anyway, don't worry about making mistakes. As you can see, I make them all the time. Everybody else does too, and they're usually fixable. All right. Now, let's do the next one. That's the front page. Let's make sure we get these in the right order now. Right, this one goes next. It goes like this. Let's do it. Just do a dry fit. Make sure everything's fine, and it is. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, that's my nice telephone. Okay, now. There's a lot of bulk on this one, so I'm trying not to get it too far down. But at the same time, I don't want it too far up either. Okay, that looks good. Okay, oops, this one's sliding off. Hang on, okay, we'll go back to that one. This one's didn't stick down because the undo that I used on it was still wet. It's pretty sticky. It should be all right. Oops. I'm going to see if I can burnish that on well. And now this one goes like this. Try to make sure I line these up with each other. That looks great. And this one, no, this goes like that, and I think it'll be easier to do it this way. right, there are our 4 pages. Got our gap, and then our little book is going to go here. And I think it's time for us to turn our attention back to the little book. So let me grab that. All right. Now, this book is going to have the magnets on the back before it gets matted. And it also has a ribbon that goes across the back and ties in the front. So let's take a look. I have in my design team pack, I was sent some seam binding of various colors. This is what I'm going to put on the front for the cover. We may add some other elements, but that's pretty much what I have in mind. And I'm trying to decide, I kind of like the red. It's a little bold. Or not the blue. Or the brown. So it's either going to be cream or the red. And I think it's going to be the red. Okay, so let's put this on first. And then let's add this, and then we'll add the magnets, and then the back mat. Okay. Let's get out our, clean up a little bit. I have a lot of stuff around. Vintage Photo Distress Oxide is the ink. Tim Holtz blending tool. Using art glitter glue. I just transferred it into a different bottle, but that's what it is. Closure on this book, the reason I'm using this ribbon that ties on the front is we don't want to add any bulk to this side because that's going to go into the spine of the larger book. And you can see that this is still a little stiff, but that's okay. Over time it relaxes as you play with it. Okay, so I'm just going to center that. I'm looking for my baby wipe. I'm down to my last one. I've got to go to the store tomorrow and buy some. All right. Now we're going to take our ribbon. I think I'll remember the magnets at this point. We are just going to tie it just to get an idea of the length that we want. About there. I always cut mine a little bit long. I'd rather have too much than too little. I can always trim it later. And I have quite a bit. Okay. So now you can go through the crinkle process with this if you want, but I find just over time it crinkles itself just fine. All right, let me grab some score tape. 3/8 inch. And you just want a piece about an inch, inch and a half long, 2 inches, give or take. And you want to center this on the back of the book. You can eyeball it. Just like that. And then center your ribbon on it. Okay, and bringing the ribbon around to the front. All right, I can tie a knot. All right. And just pull it through. And we'll fuss with this more later, but you can see it's definitely too long, but that's okay. Like I said, too long is much better than too short. Yes, I do like the red. That is very cute. Okay, so now that this is in place, we know the magnets can go above and below. You're going to need 4 magnets for this operation. There we go. I'm just wondering, I may not need book magnets quite that hefty. Might be able to go with the regular skinny ones. Let's see. No, I'm not going to take a chance. I want this book to stay stuck. So use your big basic grays or whatever you've got for a good strong magnet. One there, and then I'm going to put one on the top, and okay. That one's going there. All right, now let's grab a large book and some scraps because, like I said, these are strong magnets, especially when there's no mats between them. Going to put some layers like that, and you can see how strong they are, but that allows for embellishments underneath or whatever. Well, I say you can see, but you probably can't see because I don't think that was on camera. Okay, hang on. Okay, so I put scraps between the 2 sets of magnets because I want to be able to lift them apart easily, and until I get some more matting down, they're really going to stick hard. Okay. Let's get this stuff out of the way. And okay, so now what I'm going to do is bring the book over. You want to probably, and actually I'm going to stand up too. Hopefully I'm not in the frame. I just want to center this and more to the outside than the inside. And just where it looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Okay. And I'm going to lift this up. Let's see if I can press that down well. Get those magnets to stick. And I did. Yay! When I did this in the prototype, I did not use enough cardstock in between, and I had a terrible time getting those magnets to stick. So, and now I'm just going to add a little bit of tape. I'm not worried about reducing the efficacy of the magnets because they are so strong. It's not going to be a problem. All right, now I'm going to grab my, that's the front cover. I thought I had cut the piece for that inside this mat, but I don't seem to have it, so I guess I didn't. All right, so what I'm gonna do until I get those mats cut is keep at least a couple of pieces of scrap there. And let's get this tied. And let's floof this ribbon a little bit. All right, so we've got our pages in, we've got our little book in. Looks really nice.